Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win, or you find a way to lose. Make sure I got this thing not turned up too damn loud. Anyway, how you guys doing out there? Okay, yeah, turn it down a little bit. All right. Anyway, man, I'm doing good, man. Good morning, good night, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Hey, man, what's going on out here with Dana White? Picking up boxers. But, man, two of the top talents that he had, Francis Ngannou, he left a long time ago. Went over there to the PFL. Don't know what really happened over there at the PFL. He had one fight. They ended up releasing him. Then he hooks up with Jake Paul. And now Francis Ngannou's fighting under Ronda Rousey undercard on Netflix. About to make real money. And then you look at Jon Jones, asked for a $30 million payday and to fight up at the White House. Dana White shot it down. Now, I think that's a foul by Dana White. You talk about a historic White House card. Anyway, the tension between Jon Jones and Dana White are rising because Dana White was like, no, what I'm reading online looks like Jon Jones may have been, the counter offer was like $15 million. But now Jon Jones has hinted that he wants to be released from the UFC contract. Who knows what's going to happen with Dana White. But I tell you what, it opens the door to huge possibilities for outside promotion if, in fact, Dana White allows him to exit. And I don't blame Jon Jones for wanting to leave. Meanwhile, you look at Ngannou. Already left the UFC. Bigger fight purses, bigger opportunities, proving that fighters have more leverage outside the UFC system than ever before. But my thing is this, because I ain't here to get into the nuts and bolts of the contract between Ngannou and Dana White. Who cares, right? My thing is, could this lead to the mega fight fans have wanted for years, Jon Jones against Francis Ngannou? And how funny that would be if Jake Paul's the guy who lands the goddamn fight because somehow Jon Jones gets released, Jake Paul picks him up, and they make that mega fight, and Jon Jones and Ngannou, you know that shit's going on Netflix, and both of them making $170 million a piece. Because Netflix paying that money, right? Boy, oh boy. Talk about the rise of promotions backed by guys like Jake Paul. The fight could happen outside the UFC entirely. And they're going to kick Dana White in the nuts. Dana White may actually go out there and jump in the river butt naked, a man eating crocodiles, and attempt to swim across and stop halfway and splash the water. Just to bring it all to an end, because he'll be so goddamn miserable to see Jon Jones and Francis Ngannou fighting. Anyway, let's try to understand what happened here. All that controversy began with discussions around a historic UFC event at the White House. Jon Jones has a lot going on with his body, and he ended up going and having certain sessions about different things with the physical challenges he's having to get himself ready for training and the big White House fight. Once they cut his legs from underneath him, he's just frustrated. But he said he wanted 30. They said it's too much money, 30 million, even though the UFC is worth billions. To everything Jon Jones, all the work he put in and helped to build that brand, I think it's crazy they won't pay him that. But Dana White denied the request. And then later stated that Jones was never going to headline the event anyway, which sparked a lot of backlash because even the MMA fans, they're different. They don't mess around. And when it comes to guys like Jon Jones and them cats who helped build that sport, build that brand at UFC, they all say, all the fans believe Jon Jones is one of the greatest fighters in MMA history and deserves more than $30 million. Because they know the UFC has the money to pay him. They're just being stubborn. But anyway, now Jon Jones wants to be out the UFC, and I don't blame him at all, man. You look at what's going on with Dana White and signing fighters and Zuffa Boxing and some of those guys who are with the UFC who were able to get out of it and go and fight. Look at like Nate Diaz and what he was able to do with Jake Paul. And, There's a lot of guys who have been able to leave and go out there and make real money. You know what I'm saying? That kind of money they would never make in the UFC. But Jon Jones, man, that situation escalated real quickly, man. Publicly criticized the UFC negotiations, questioned the company's statements, hinted he wants to be released from his contract, which, has snowballed into a huge development because I'm telling you, I don't know if Dana White's going to let him go, but I think he should. I think he should let him go. Because if Jon Jones becomes a free agent, the combat sports landscape changes overnight. I mean, really it does. Now, the most shocking thing about all this is Francis Ngannou showed support for Jon Jones. He came out and showed support for him. And I think there are some significant reasons on why he showed support. For a long time, Jones and Ngannou were considered the most dangerous fighters in MMA, and that was probably the most dangerous fight. Everyone knows Jon is a killer, and so is Ngannou, a powerhouse. Them two getting there and lock horns, fans were divided on who would win. But I'll tell you this. The negotiations never materialized, and fans have always debated about who would win. But Ngannou even said that fight was difficult to make because Dana White was a major obstacle. Now look at the irony. The two men who were once rivals are aligned against the system. See, this is how fights get made outside the UFC. Now, Jon Jones is probably watching Ngannou saying, man, this man left the UFC, changed the entire business model, signed with the PFL, boxed Tyson Fury, boxed AJ, secured massive paydays. His move proves something very important. A fighter can leave the UFC and still become a global star. Ngannou made real dough, like $45 million in 3 fights, something crazy. And the UFC want to pay this man like hundreds of thousands, not even mils. Anyway, Ngannou's blowing up now because he's fighting on the Ronda Rousey Netflix card. Ronda Rousey was with the UFC as well. And this makes for another interesting twist when it comes to combat sports. Ngannou and Ronda Rousey streaming on Netflix, making real money. Y'all see what's going on here, right? It's showing a major shift. Streaming platforms are starting to enter the fight business. And that just means bigger audiences, bigger purses, and fighters having more negotiating power. If you have a big name like Jon Jones, this man could come out, get a deal with Netflix for one fight, and he doesn't even have to fight Francis Ngannou. He can fight Corky from the goddamn block. And Netflix will buy into it because the MMA fans are so fanatical, they're going to support him. And everyone watches goddamn UFC. Even my sons, they know this is a boxing household, but my sons be talking to me about UFC. I'm like, how you know all that shit? Because they watch it. That's this generation that's coming up. It's really UFC and that MMA stuff. But I hope Jon Jones can shake loose of the UFC because if he ends up signing with Jake Paul, let me tell you something. That changed the landscape. Jake Paul already has signed MMA fighters, built MVP promotions, worked with big names, secured major streaming deals. If Jones enters that ecosystem, let me tell you, it'll be one of the biggest free agent signings in combat sports history. And the fans, they still want Jones versus Ngannou. You know, this whole baddest man on the planet thing, people are still talking about it. Jones is the greatest MMA technician ever. Francis Ngannou is probably the most powerful puncher in MMA history. So the fight's always been viewed as power versus skill, wrestling versus knockout power, technique versus raw destruction. And many believe it would be one of the biggest fights in combat sports history. And I do think outside the UFC, this shit is a mega fight. Mega fight. If Jones were released, several scenarios could happen. Cross-promotional, boxing MMA hybrid event, Netflix or streaming mega card, Jake Paul promoted event. Entities could create a fight worth hundreds of millions of dollars. So would Dana White regret not making the fight? That's the question. Because I think Dana White's going to feel like he got kicked in the nuts if that fight was to be made. Fans begged for that fight. It never happened. And I don't understand why it didn't happen. I hear all kind of shit, but I mean, I don't follow the UFC like that. But even I, as a casual UFC fan, I'm like, why? Out of all the fights they can make, you telling me you're gonna nitpick over money and not just pay these guys the $15 million paydays, $20 million paydays a piece, $30, $40 million paydays a piece, heavyweights? That shit's crazy. But now to see that, hey, the fight happens elsewhere, it's going to be a massive global event, a huge financial success. And 100% is going to be a major loss for the UFC brand. 100%. So, I'll tell you what, fighter power continues to grow, people. It continues to grow. The situation highlights a lot of different things. Something bigger happening in combat sports. I just think fighters are realizing, you know what I'm saying? They don't always need the UFC anymore. You got streaming platforms out here. You got Saudi events, influencer promotions, boxing crossovers. The fight business is evolving. And there 100% is a place for Jon Jones, and especially an opportunity and a place for Jon Jones and Ngannou. So if Jon Jones truly becomes a free agent, the fight fans have wanted years to have him face Ngannou. And it could happen. And it won't be for no belt, not for no promotion, but the title many fans care about, which is the baddest man on the planet. I'll tell you what, make the damn fight. In the breeze.